Welcome to VPG's Virtual Water Cooler Chat Podcast, a platform that features professionals across a variety of industries and promotes growth mindset principles with a central pillar of championing the achievements of women. Our conversations explore a wide spectrum of backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives, creating a vibrant mosaic that enriches our collective understanding and strengthens our commitment to growth and empowerment. In this episode, Ashley is speaking with Amee Shah, founder and managing member of Benchview Consulting. Amee helps innovators, entrepreneurs, and organizations navigate the patent system with clarity and confidence, bringing her clients decades of experience and a rare end-to-end perspective on intellectual property. Prior to launching Benchview, Amee served as both a patent examiner and a patent judge. Following earlier roles as a naval architect, large firm associate, and solar practitioner, she now translates insider knowledge of how patents are examined and adjudicated into actionable strategies that help clients achieve stronger outcomes with fewer surprises. Let's get started.
Welcome, Amee, and welcome to the Water Cooler Chat. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me here. Really appreciate the opportunity.
I'm really grateful to have you. I actually have interviewed quite a few former administrative patent judges. I know a lot of people that are in the space. A lot of respect and admiration. So thank you for being one of them so that we could actually chat and get to know you a little bit and let our audience also know you. So I know that you're born ready. So let's get started. Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself personally and then professionally?
Okay, so personally, I'm originally from New York, and sometimes that comes out. So if I speak a little too quickly, let me know. I've had that issue. I was born and raised in New York, kind of like you, Ashley, the daughter of immigrants, first one born in the US. My dad was an engineer. My mom was, I guess, a bookkeeper for a while. So I grew up in New York, went to a really small college in Long Island called Webb Institute. People don't know about it. It's an all-scholarship school, and by small, my kids tell me I mean tiny. It had 90 people in the entire college, and it was for naval architecture and marine engineering. So it was interesting. From there, I went on, and I guess I could talk about my journey in a little bit, but generally I have three, children, but they're all adults now. So the oldest is about to be 25. My middle one is 22, and my youngest is 20. So it's been busy. Been sort of getting used to empty nesting. So we'll see how that goes. This has been quite a year of changes in that sense between empty nesting and getting a different job. And so it's been exciting.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit about the naval architect, especially for a woman engineer? I mean, how did you get yourself into that?
So it's actually funny. I know a lot of people say this, but I wanted to be a lawyer. I always did. I said something to my dad about this, probably in like 8th or 9th grade. And he was like, well, we have to get your degree in college in something, right? You don't get a law degree. What are you going to do? And it was very simple. He said, well, you like drawing, so why don't you do architecture? And at my high school, we actually had these vocational programs, and one of the programs was architecture, essentially. So I had one period in 9th grade, one period in 10th grade, 2 periods in 11th grade, and 3 periods in 12th grade. So I kind of did architecture, planned on doing architecture. My math teacher had a daughter who went to Webb and said, you should try this. And this is probably it was very naive of me, but I thought, oh, great. Instead of, drawing houses, I'll draw ships, and that would be awesome. I conveniently forgot about the marine engineering part that went second because they put that second. It really wasn't. It was primarily marine engineering with a lot of architecture classes in there. It was really a mixture of all engineering disciplines to a large extent. So I got there. It's a beautiful campus right off the Long Island Sound. You get to go sailing when you want, and you have access to boats. And they have this winter work program where I worked at a shipyard. I went out to sea as a cadet. I worked in various design firms. And so it was really exciting. The hard part about it was, like you said, there were very few women. I believe I was the first woman of color there. And that was sort of hard. There were some older professors that didn't believe women should be engineers. So some of that was hard. But there were also a lot of wonderful people there. There's a lot of camaraderie. you end up being like a family for good or bad. You get on each other's nerves, but you got each other's backs at times. Really good alumni association. And that's kind of how I fell into it.
That's so impressive. The reason why it piqued my interest is because my cousin actually, she's born and raised in Flushing, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually studied and got her master's in architecture. And she's right now, I think like, there's so many different titles. Like right now she's a draftsperson, and she was explaining to me, I think she's like 23 or 24 right now. Well, late last year, I went to a concert in actually Niagara Falls. So she lives in Buffalo. So she drove up and we kind of hung out, and then she got some career advice from me, and I got some like Gen Z advice from her. And so that was awesome. But I was like, there's no one in the family that actually even remotely got into architecture. And I said, why did you, and she likes to draw. And I said, why did you decide to be architecture? She was like, well, I kind of always like Minecraft. And I like to do like different type of things. So that's, I was like, well, okay, that's fine. So I actually invited her to be on the IP Top Brand Insights in June, which is a live LinkedIn. And I have a couple of other professional women in the legal ops and an Australian attorney, and then someone else to be on that LinkedIn live so that she can actually get a chance to have some visibility and also get to learn from other people, instead of just her cousin. How boring is that? You've been at the USPTO for a long time. Yeah. And from patent examiner to an administrative patent judge, how does that dual perspective shape your current view and also start the Benchview Consulting?
So, like you mentioned, I was at the patent office for 20 years, which is quite a while. During that time, I did a few things. One of the things that I did, which what we call the inventor outreach. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the video. Yep. So we did that. And that was actually, I think, outside of deciding cases, that was one of my favorite things at the board, a chance to really teach people, educate them on the system, share some knowledge with them. After 20 years, when the opportunity came for me to take an early retirement, I decided to take it because I thought, maybe it is time to try something new and sort of fill in this little gap, I think, between where inventors, small, medium businesses, even larger companies could use sort of that education and advice in the patent process, how to get a patent, when to get a patent, just general things that I think a lot of people don't have easy access to and they don't know much about it. And I thought, why not try something different? I've been doing different things my whole life with a bit of a windy career, and it just seemed like the right time to move on and share my knowledge, I guess. I don't know if that sounds a little too conceited, but just to, advise people and serve this community, I think that I know the patent office was trying to reach out to, but I felt like I could do some of that as well.
This definitely does not sound conceited. I mean, I think the world needs more of you. So that's my view. So the next question, I always like to ask this question. How do you come up with the name Benchview Consulting? I mean, I know the literally of what that is, but putting together a name is very difficult for a business.
It is. Ask my kids.
Oh, okay.
I do ask them. We spitballed ideas. I was going back and forth on things. And then my son told me I should highlight the fact that I was a judge because people would, acknowledge that. And we just kind of spitballed and thought about ways to do it. I think I did reach out to ChatGPT a little bit to see what they came up with. And through all those ideas, we decided Benchview was not quite literal, but at least close enough. And I did research, and the only other Benchview is somebody I think that dealt with football statistics. I figured,
okay, there's no likelihood of confusion there.
Yeah, so it just ended up kind of happening that way. And then once I saw it, I just felt like that was the right choice for me.
Do you want to hear about the virtual patent gateway, how I came up with that?
I do.
The thing is, I really thought of all these years, someone have to come up with something like this already by now, right? So I started my company about 6 years ago, January 2020, 3 months before the pandemic. That's when I started. And I was actually at Busch Garden. And I thought that I was going to start in March because I needed some time off. I resigned in December 2019 from my position as a case manager at Finnegan. And I was like, just need some time. Took my mom over to Busch Garden. And as I was not literally on a roller coaster, but somewhere in between, I got a call from someone. And at that time, I thought that I was going to call my company Virtual Patent Paralegal Alliance because I am a paralegal. That was my identity for a long time. And I always have to remember, that ABA model rules that, unauthorized practice of law, you cannot have something that looks so confusing and so that the public could have any misconception about what you do. So if you see my logo is like Virtual Patent Gateway, but it's like go to paralegal services, I want to make sure that I identify. You highlight the fact that you're a judge. I highlight the fact that I'm not an attorney. So I thought there was a Virtual Patent Paralegal Alliance. And while at Busch Garden, someone was calling me, a former attorney of mine was calling me and said that, hey, the word on the street is that you're starting a consulting company. When is this going to start? I was like, March? And he goes, any chance that you could start earlier? I said, I don't know. What do you have in mind? He goes, I have 4 cases waiting for you. I'm like, you want to wait for me to start and to file? I don't know. Let me think about this. And then so I was like, I think I know how to file LLC. So let me go ahead and at least get that liability thing out of the way. Because I'd done due diligence, from December. And this is registered in Virginia. And when I register, after all the due diligence, it was okay. No one that is actually have that name. When I register, they rejected my name. Or when I tried to, they rejected the Virtual Patent Paralegal Alliance. Don't know why. So I hired a service to double check me to make sure that it wasn't an operational issue. Right. So they was like, we got the same error. I'm like, I don't know, but why try to figure out why right now? I'll just have to pivot to something else. So of course, clean construction, always preparing exhibits, looking for definitions, went on to online dictionary with a friend. And I was like, they got rejected for this. Let me see what I can do. I have to keep virtual. I have to keep patent. What is my other word? I don't want it to be too long, didn't read TLDR. I was going through Galaxy, different things, because I'm just going to a more creative route on that. And then I hit Gateway. I look at it as sort of like the opening to sort of a market. And opening to something. It's like, I like that. So I search and then send it to the service. I was like, can you double check this on me? Because by that time, I have enough paranoia. I don't want to check this on myself. And plus, I'm a Busch Garden, I just get them was like, try registering this. And that's it. Done. So that's Virtual Patent Gateway.
But I think it's amazing that you've done that. And I think it's amazing that you started already with clients, because that is, I think, the hardest thing about being a business owner is getting your clients. And when you start your business and you have, 4 things lined up, it's...
Well, actually, right around the time that I left, the people that learned that I was going to leave. And so I have people approaching me for in-house position, different law firms, because I've been in the space for about 30 years. Yeah. And I started at 5. And
that's what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so 25 years in patent, 26 years in patent, actually. And then about 3 years in construction litigation. So I've been always litigation. I've not done patent prosecution. I do not really think that my temperament and my personality really fit patent prosecution. I don't also have the technical degree. So that was really interesting how I even survive in this field. And I think it's the fact that I'm very curious. I'm a good learner. So those actually help me kind of pivot in many ways, because there are a lot of times that if I don't know something, I'll figure it out. Confidence is how now that I learned 6 years into this, there's many missteps. And sometimes you're just like, what am I going to do next? And you find out, as you're doing this. And having clients is not necessarily my biggest problem. I think my biggest problem is choosing the right client. Because if you don't, that's a liability.
And your life could be made miserable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Funny that you said you did construction litigation because when I got out of law school, I went to Holland and Knight and I ended up doing
Oh,
construction litigation. And that was, it was not something that I don't think I was very good at it. It wasn't an interest of mine. I had summered doing maritime law, which was fascinating, and I wasn't really into it. So I ended up not staying at Holland and Knight for, more than a few years and starting my own law practice at that time, doing more
oh.
general litigation. Yeah, I wanted to really be in the courtroom. I wanted to do those types of things. And so it is funny that, the construction litigation comes back and it's just, like I said, I tried different things to figure out, which ones I really enjoyed.
So, my major is political science and East Asian languages and cultures. What I do has nothing to do with that, but in general. So the reason why I even got into construction litigation is because when I first graduated, my boss at the time hired me right before I finished my master's degree. And I got it from the University of Kansas. And so she really liked me from the internship. And so she offered me a job to come to Washington, D.C. I was in Kansas. And then it didn't really quite work out. So I had to look for a temp job. And my temp agency sent me to a wrong assignment. And it was at a construction firm and helping with some copy job. And it was 8 minutes from my house. I was like, I'll figure it out. And I'm applying for, think tank type of research position and didn't get anything. And that's how I fell into it. And then the office manager from that firm was like, my parents used to have a Chinese restaurant. And so I multitasked like crazy and in between school, work and everything. So it was really interesting that the office manager, because I was sent to a temp agency, the office manager came to the copy room and said to me, this was when I was really young. And then she said, we don't know why, but right before noon, all the copy jobs are done. And it has never happened like this before. I mean, some of the attorneys were commenting, what changed in the copy room? And then that was me.
That was you.
Right? That was me. I'm originally from Hong Kong. So I speak Cantonese. I know some Mandarin. I study East Asian languages culture in school. So she sent one of the rainmaker over to the copy center and it's like, you must meet her. And then I didn't tell them that I have a master's degree. So they asked for my resume and I gave them the resume. And they said, why didn't you tell us that you have a master's degree? I said, I'm not applying for a job here. This is irrelevant. So at some point I talked to the rainmaker. He then became a mentor and a friend now. And we do a once a year lunch around the holidays. But he was hoping that I could help him with international project management with more on the marketing side, but it is overhead. So the law firm people, the management did not really like that. So he thought that maybe if he convert me to be a paralegal, make me billable, then at some point I could convert back to international project management and marketing, but it never quite happened. And eventually I was like, I don't want to do this. So I went to the GW paralegal program and got my certificate. And one of my professor then was an associate at Morgan Lewis. And he was like, you need to get out of construction and go to IP. I'm like, what IP do I want to do? And he was like, you should do patent. I'm like, okay. So that was 20 years of my life before I started my career. Isn't that crazy how life works out?
It is funny. I mean, I think I don't know if you saw on my LinkedIn, my story of how I came to the patent office. My father-in-law actually was at the patent office and he went there a little bit later in life as a second career. And he loved it. He absolutely raved about it and he loved it. And he kept telling me, you should go to the patent office, you should go to the patent office. And I was having kids, I was working. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm doing my thing. I want to say after my second son, I thought, maybe I'll apply. And I applied and I got an interview and they told me, yeah, we're going to hire you. You'll hear from us soon. And a year went by. I think there was a hiring freeze or something. I don't know. And a year went by. So I started going along with it. And what I didn't put in that story is that I was actually pregnant with my third child, who was my daughter. We went to this car show and somehow I got food poisoning from, I kid you not, I think the margarita pizza, tomatoes or something.
Oh, God.
And I was in the hospital because I was just really bad and I was pregnant. And so I come home and it's a day later and I'm not really paying attention. I figure it was my husband checking up on me. And so I pick up the phone and it's Win, and I was out of it, but I was like, I don't know if I want this job. I was like, came a year ago. You guys took forever, and and I think anyone else would have just been horrified and been like, I don't want this person. And Wynn just laughed, and she was now then convincing me to come, and I'm like, fine, I'll come next week for an interview, right? And I look back on it now and I just can't believe that I did that. But I do want to say it was because of recovering from the food poisoning. And so when I went in for the interview, it was funny because she was trying to sell me on the job instead of me selling myself. Bit of a discussion in my household because, change in scheduling and dropping kids off and all that kind of stuff. And it worked out. It was 2.5 long years of commuting. And then we had the flexibility, and it was because, I just jumped. And I thought my initial plan was to be at the patent office for about 3 years and then go in-house. And I just really liked the job and I decided to stay. And then when the time was right, I applied to be a judge. It's just funny how these things just pop up and you have to just take advantage of it when you can.
I think sometimes you just have to stay open-minded. Instead, I think we talk about like your career not on LinkedIn or somewhere that I saw that not having a linear career. It's just a lot more fun sometimes. But in the old days, I would never this is how I want to go, right?
Yeah.
I graduated, maybe I'll go get a, research position. If it doesn't work out, who would have thought that I became a paralegal? One of my late professor tried to convince me to go to law school unsuccessfully. And I ended up working and supporting attorneys for a majority of my career. And I actually enjoyed that. I think 90% of my time I enjoyed it. There's 10% I was like, why am I doing this?
There's always 10%.
Yeah, that's the 10%. At least it's not it hasn't reached like the 20%, so it's not the Pareto principle yet. Let's talk about Benchview Consulting and your work. Where do you most often see companies misalign their patent strategy with their actual business objectives?
I think part of it is I see that companies, some of them have good business, they have their business objectives, but they don't really know how the patents play into it. So sometimes, for example, I have a company now that reached out to me a while back, and they're holding off on doing a patent, and they're worried that it's not patent eligible, right? And so it's in like the software space, and they're thinking about those things. And when you point out, well, sometimes the value isn't just in getting a patent, the value is in applying for one, so you're almost protecting yourself from later infringement allegations, later, trials, things coming back to you later. You never know unless you try, but there are different reasons for it, right? Some people want a patent because they want to be able to license the product. Some people want a patent because they just want to make sure that they have a hold in that place and someone else can't do the same thing or can't say that they're copying them later on. And other people want patents because they're going to manufacture the product, they're going to sell it, this is their business, this is what they do. So I think a lot of times when the businesses, especially starters, when they're starting out or when they're smaller, they're focused on getting their business up and running, that they sometimes forget about the IP that needs to be protected during that time. They, put it aside, or they just think it's not going to matter. No one else is going to know how we do this. And so it doesn't play into it. So I think that's sometimes how their IP isn't necessarily aligned with their goals, because they really have to think about not just getting that product out there and doing it, but what are the ramifications? Will it be copied later? How do you protect against that? Even if you don't end up getting a patent. And obviously the goal is to get a patent, but sometimes you just can't. And so I think that's what I normally see in that sense. It's getting them to understand that patent and IP isn't just patents, but it's not just getting a patent, it's protecting your idea as well.
Based on your experiences, what distinguishes a strong patent portfolio from one that not so strong?
It's kind of changed over time. I think, it used to be the name of the game is the claim, right? Which I think was like Judge Rich or somebody that said that a long time ago. But then since then, I think it's more the specification in it. A lot of times the claims are what they are and you can invalidate a claim, but yet you still have in your specification your ideas, your actual invention. And so, yes, you look to the claims to see, will that be infringed? But I think the specification is important as well. I think it's as important because oftentimes to figure out an invention, you're looking at the claims, but you're reading it in light of the spec, or you're really getting an idea of what's in there based on that specification. So I think with a strong patent portfolio, it would be having strong claims, having a strong specification, having one where the prosecution history is well developed. I think most people, and I understand, want to file for a patent and get it right away, right? Oh, great, I got an allowance, second action allowance, first action allowance. This is awesome. But if there's not a well-developed prosecution history, then sometimes they may have missed something. There's a greater chance that there's something out there that could overturn it. So I think those are two of the main things that would help make a patent portfolio stronger, is having a really thorough prosecution or thorough IDSs, things like that, as well as a well-supported claims in the specification.
Like I said earlier, that I have never really been focused too much on patent prosecution unless I have like some downtime. They want me to help with IDSs or do things. That's the extent. And sometimes I'll do service for ex parte when I was at my old firm. And then when I came out, and I think about 3.5 years ago, one of my clients was like, can you do some ex parte for us? I was like, don't know how. And then, the name of the game is figuring it out. So I figured it out, and I've been doing it since like 3.5 years ago. I mean, the patent prosecution part of it, and because it's on Patent Center versus on PTAX. Right. So PTAX, that's my niche. And early on, I want to be everything to everybody, because you need to pay your bills. And then you realize it's like, no, that's not sustainable, because you try to please everyone, then you please no one, especially not yourself. So I changed my game to be a lot more no. And it actually has served me much better, especially for my mental wellness. That was really amazing. And then now, with a lot of different changes in the PTAB, then I ended up having a really growth spurt in my ex parte practice, because I do support attorneys. My clients are primarily, because I don't do anything on my own. Like I said, I'm not an attorney. My clients are always going to be someone with registration number. With the USPTO, that's the practice, that area that they practice in. Have started doing some training. The clients are usually like small to medium-sized firms. But I don't want to do supporting large firms, mostly because I don't want to be working 24/7. That's why I love firms, right?
And I hear you on that one.
Yeah, so I wanted to have a more balanced life, but then it's sort of been very interesting that part of VPG has a on-demand platform that we do site checking, because I partner with someone that teaches that for a long time as a paralegal educator. So we have the on-demand, and we've run it for about 3.5 years. Last year was when it really gained some traction. We got like a nonprofit coming to ask us to do it. We have an agency to come and ask us to sign people up. And I even talked to a marketing guru, Seth Godin. One of that episodes is really good for marketing. If you his ideas is amazing.
I did listen to that one. That was a great episode. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is I've been in this space for a long time. So I'm totally diverting on this right now. I always have to have a list of questions, prepping and everything. So I try to send it to Seth. And Seth is like, I'm not going to read it. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And I kind of ignore him. And then I tried to, he was like, well, as I said before, I'm not going to read your questions. And the best podcast is when you're sitting there and just talk. That episode for the prepping, oh my God, that really scared me, because I'm like, he wrote 23 best-selling book. I am struggling with my language. Thank God I'm less self-conscious than my earlier episode. Like you said earlier, at first I was like, I can't even get my act together. But now it's I get much more comfortable. I think it's practice over time. And the practice that is the part that is so important is that I stop being so self-conscious, especially when you're a woman on a camera. It adds 10 pounds. Kinds of thing. I don't know, whatever, the content is what people really care. And you look amazing. I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? But after I just care about the content more versus my image. So that has really been the key change?
Yeah, I think a lot of it also is that as you do it, you get more confidence. And so when you get that confidence and you believe in yourself more, it comes across and it's easier to a certain extent. And
Yeah.
people believe you because you believe yourself. And that's something that I've noticed also. I know I tend to do this. I think a lot of women tend to do this. I think I did this in this podcast where I apologize for something, make sure, and if I do come across conceited, well, maybe I shouldn't apologize. Maybe that is just confidence, right? It's sort of getting that type of confidence in that way. I am confident that I know what I'm doing, but for some reason, sometimes you, like you said, you feel a little nervous about it. You try to figure out, especially when you're trying something new, that always sort of shakes your confidence a little bit because you got so used to being an expert in one thing and now you have to pivot to something else. And how do you show that you're still good at this other thing?
So would you like 2 hacks that I learned over the years?
Sure.
First one is when you wanted to apologize, not saying that I'm sorry, but like, thank you for your understanding. I tell like my friends, some of them from judges, some judges' friends, some of them solicitors. And I'm just like, because there's a couple of books. Gravitas is one of them by Lisa Sun. And then another one is from Randy Braun. She has another book. She's like a chief member and a lot of law firms actually hire her to speak. And then Lorraine Lee, she is like an Anakin expert. And for Lisa Sun's story is like the reason why it's called Gravitas, she used to work for a McKinsey company. And her review, the very first review when she was like in her 20s, the evaluator said that she got no gravitas. On your evaluation,
Yeah.
So how do you recover from that? But I'm so glad that she recovered. She also has her own podcast. She was on my podcast before.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. And then the second one is just sometimes you just have to do it. Especially I feel like that men do this too, but I feel women do that more, is that we try to have the perfect plan. Sometimes just do it.
I completely agree with that. It's good to be organized, good to have planned. It's not always easy to know where that line is, especially when you're juggling a bunch of different tasks and jobs and responsibilities that you have. I think when I wrote to you, one of the things that I mentioned was having this career and this windy career while raising a family, right?
Yes.
And I think that's something I saw one of your other podcasts I heard that talked about the dads group. I think it was
Stephen No. Yes.
Yeah. So
2 dads, 1 car.
Right, 2000. And so it is kind of interesting because growing up, I was always told, it was the women's movement and we're supposed to go out there and we're supposed to conquer and do all this and it's going to be equal. Everything's going to be equal. And the fact is, when you have a family, things can't really be equal. Someone has to give something up. And it's always a choice between families as to who slows down in their career, who takes a different turn, who does these things. And so I think that's part of it too, is I don't know. We talk about this to a certain extent, but I still feel like there's a little bit of a stigma in really saying, look, I made certain decisions because that's what my family needed. And I think people expect that of women more than men. So sometimes men have it harder when they make a decision because that's what their family needed. I sort of bring that up because I do think that it still gets a little bit of a disservice in the sense that, and when I'm talking to family, it's not just kids. A lot of people have elderly parents to look after or siblings or friends or something. It's just you have other responsibilities. And this may be an area where I say cut, but I just think that it's an important topic to still keep in mind that it hasn't gone away and it's still a real valid and important part of a career and career choices.
Yeah. I think like that is so true and so difficult to balance in especially legal or like finance industry when precision is something is so important. Like you could talk about, you don't have to be perfect, but you really kind of do.
Yes.
If you are not perfect on that claims or the specification, you might not get that patent, I just think that that is such a challenge on that part. Yeah, I am really glad. I totally agree with you on that. One thing that really, really, it melts my heart. You actually listen to many of my episodes.
I don't know if it's just I like being prepared, but I wanted to know.
Well, you were a judge before. So.
Well, I like seeing all the evidence before I make a decision.
Well, how about pass?
No, it was great. I was surprised I went through. I'm like, you know what? I'm sitting there eating breakfast. Let me listen to a podcast, you know?
Oh,
It
okay.
just ended up, there have been some really interesting people on it, and I'm really, happy to be one of them, I guess.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of podcast producers, they actually choose guests for them for the shows. I don't do that. You could call me controlling. I like to know who I'm talking to. And I actually
Yeah.
gave some opportunities to the younger folks on my team to interview because I don't want them to listen to only me. I want them to actually have first experience, first to public speaking, and then two, to have the direct interaction. And it makes them feel good. I don't need to talk all the time. Even though that it sounds like that I'm just like a broken record. My producer was telling me one time we were online planning for stuff, and she's like, some people are writing to be on your podcast. I said, oh, interesting. Who are these people? And she's like, I'll summarize and give you the thing. Some of them wants to pay to get on my podcast. So I'm like, oh, okay, look at them. And I think I rejected 95% of them.
Wow, I'm honored. Thank you.
Because this doesn't align with what I am trying to do. And then one of them I said right back, if he wants to offer that price, then we could at least proceed to talking. Then there was you. And I was like, who is submitting? Usually I don't have that many. I have had people like submitting requests to be a client, but you were the first one about the podcast. So I read, I was like, oh, she followed instructions. And she did not just like randomly. So I was very intrigued. But the timing was not so great because I'm like going to Backstreet Boy next week.
Oh,
I
that'll
know.
be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. Right after IP Talk Run Insights, I am going to Las Vegas, and the moderator, who's 22 years old, is going to New York. So as soon as we get off, I'm live linking. I'm heading to the airport. She's heading to the train station. But it was like really amazing. But I saw yours, and I thought I was like, I'm very fond of like the PTAP practice. So anything I can do to support, I will. So that's why we're here today. And I'm really excited that, you are on this podcast. So before we end, looking ahead, how do you see patent strategy evolving as, this tech cycles, especially AI, accelerate?
Yeah, well, obviously AI is a big role. I know there are products out there that are trying to make AI easier for attorneys and the Health Counsel and things like that. I think that and we all know that as it gets into those places, AI is going to require some oversight and collaboration, with all the people it's working with. But I think one of the things also, this is all going to lead to the fact that the speed at which someone has to file is going to increase. I know in the past, sometimes you develop something, you'd wait until it's, perfect, and then you file. I think it may have to, provisionals are going to play a bigger importance on being like a placeholder. I also think that the life of a patent realistically is going to be a little bit shorter. I think the pace that we're going at, a patent life cycle may be, 3 to 5 years or so. And so, like I said before, waiting on something for 12 years or expecting to get 12 years out of something isn't as practical. So that might mean more patent claims, more patent applications. I don't know. I think that's part of it. I think it's going to be more about maybe not just broader claims, but more of them protecting your space and not only the invention, to try to get at the new things that'll be coming up in the next few years. As I said before, I think the specification and making sure it follows the laws, I think that's something where the tech cycles in terms of accelerating, it is going to be a part of more short-term patents, the life cycle of patent being smaller and just being faster with filing, I think.
Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your insights. I'm so glad that email did not go to like my junk folder. And I'm so glad that I actually responded to you. Otherwise, I would not have learned so much about you. So I want to let you know that I'm going to be sending you
thank you.
Actually, maybe we could have lunch at some point.
Yes, I love that.
Then that way you could get our Urban Raccoons Creative Hub water bottle. I just like kind of dreamed this up and it was like, oh, this looks good. This is like my favorite color, and it's water bottle that is a glass bottle, so that you could actually have juice, tea, whatever.
No microplastics.
Yes, exactly. I mean, or even I love my Awala because I have a Gumboots Awala, so I added this particular sticker on there.
Oh, yeah.
So cute. But I was like, I cannot put juice in there. Sometimes a green juice or whatever. So you will be getting this as a podcast guest. This is our new swag. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you, I think, in March as well.
So March, we have like an event. That is at Stern Castle's building. Oh, awesome!
I did. Yeah.
And then
I'm going to be in town I'm going to be downtown that day anyway. So.
Oh, okay, great. Because we will have oh my God, we will have so much fun. I'm having a 22-year-old designing a cake that basically presents the theme of that event.
Oh, nice.
So I have the stage of the podcast and then also the speed mentoring. I think it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be a lot of collab. And I think that, I know that AAPJ is actually one of our co-sponsors.
Oh, good.
Yep.
That's
More
great.
visibility.
Well,
That's the American Association of Patent Judges gave them a shout out now.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Ashley. I appreciate this.